Well, it's 7:01 and we have a quorum, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. This meeting is being as an alternative means of public access pursuant to an order issued by the Governor of Massachusetts, dated March 12, 2020, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. You are hereby advised that this meeting and all communications during this meeting may be recorded by the town of Hingham in accordance with the open meeting law. If any participant wishes to record this meeting, please notify the chair at the start of the meeting in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20F, so that the chair may inform all other participants of said recording. So we are recording this meeting. It will be available, as our other meetings have, on the Harbor Media YouTube site. Is there anyone else present who is recording the meeting? If so, please identify themselves. I don't see anyone. So to the second order of business, questions from the public on items not on the agenda. I don't see any members of the public other than our committee members at the meeting, so I am assuming there are none. So that brings us to our third order of business, which is any further discussion and vote on the advisory committee policies and procedures. And I think this year we have done the deepest dive ever into AdCom policies and procedures. I think I've read them 10 or 12 times, which means Dave Aline must have read them 25 times at least, through all the edits and red lines and revisions, and through a collective review after last week. I think we have got ourselves to what is hopefully a final red line copy for approval. So dare I ask, is there further discussion?
I hate to ask, Bob, but can I just ask for an explanation?
Where's my mute button?
So paragraph number 10, section A, the last sentence in that section says 8 members shall constitute a quorum of the committee for the transaction of business, but a lesser number may adjourn any meeting of the committee. What does that mean? A lesser number may adjourn any meeting?
If, for example, we have a meeting and during the meeting, somebody has to leave.
Okay.
You know, somebody's
So
going
we
to
no longer have a quorum?
Then that's right. There technically is not a quorum.
Okay.
But it permits the meeting to be adjourned without a quorum being present. And I think similar to, I mean, you will have seen the language, I think, about the town meeting, that a quorum is presumed to be present until somebody actually stands up and questions whether a quorum is present any longer. And the town meeting can be adjourned without having a quorum present.
Okay.
So I think that's where that whole concept came from.
Gotcha. All right.
Shouldn't it be fewer?
Did somebody else make a comment?
I was kidding that it should be fewer rather than lesser, but I was kidding.
Happy to change that if you'd like.
I was kidding, sorry. Oh.
I think fewer is technically correct. Referring to a number. Is there further discussion?
I've made that change.
Not seeing any hands, I think we then come to
Is there a motion to approve the AdCom policies and procedures as set forth in Dave Lean's latest draft with the change that we made a moment ago?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, then we come to vote. Al McDonald,
Yes, aye.
Dave Lean,
Aye.
you should get to vote twice. Dave Anderson,
Aye.
Evan,
Aye.
Andy McElhaney,
Aye.
Brenda Black,
Aye.
George Dennis,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Kristen,
Aye.
Libby,
Aye.
Nancy,
Aye.
Evan.
Aye again.
Oh, okay, I'm going down a list and I think therefore I have got everybody. So it
Aye.
sounds like a unanimous vote.
I'll go aye.
Victor.
Victor also says aye.
So
I
do
did
I.
not get-
Aye.
I mean, you're slipping, Bob, in your waning days of your chairmanship. I mean,
Well, you know, it's my Zoom technique. I used to go by pictures and now I'm going by the participant list. But
which
then
it does move.
the participant list shifts around, so I'm gonna go
It
back
does.
I'm gonna go back to the pictures. So.
So Bob,
um,
I will send out a final copy with the one change of lesser to fewer and with the date that it's been approved.
Okay, and we will post it on the website once we receive it. So the next agenda item is preparation for town meeting, speaker assignments, moderator meeting update. Now, most of you were at the moderator's meeting. And does anybody have any questions about their speaker assignments? I mean, we know on climate that Brenda's going to take the lead and that there are at least 3 people that will speak after her, members of the public. We know on the public safety facility that Nancy, you're going to take the lead and that there are others to follow if necessary. Hopefully there won't be any need for speakers, but I think we're lined up as we go. We know on the planning board articles that the planning board is going to speak first, followed as necessary by our liaisons. And I think those were the highlights.
Dave, do you have squared away what you're gonna do with the Plymouth River School windows? Like, is the school, the building committee gonna speak, or are they gonna have the school committee speak?
That's a good question. I mean, I do now have the number, but I guess we didn't think about that. I think Ray is on the line. But I don't think Carrie is. Bob, do you have any kind of preference?
I think that in general, it makes sense for AdCom to go first because it is generally the AdCom point of view that the people at the town meeting are looking to hear from and rely on.
Well, I'm happy to lead off, but I guess I would just say, unless there are objections, and maybe we didn't cover it with Michael on Sunday, but I'm not gonna, I mean, I will be prepared to speak, but I'm not expecting to speak. Let me put it that way. And I would only speak if there was a concern. One would hope that this one is not particularly controversial, but you never know.
Yeah, I would think that is generally true with all articles, unless somebody desires discussion. I think we ought to let the moderator say, now we come to vote and let the vote proceed and move on to the next one, especially if rain clouds are on the horizon for 4 or 5 o'clock.
God willing.
You know, I understand people's feelings about climate. I mean, in some ways, it is the greatest existential threat facing the town. And it's a good opportunity to do some education on how to address climate as we move forward. But I'm expecting that most of the articles are not going to prompt discussion, and we'll probably go forward to a reasonably prompt vote.
Bob,
Yes, Louis.
do you have, and I know this is hard to estimate, and I was trying to remember how late last year's town meeting went. Because I have a flight out on Saturday night. And I had, when it was booked, anticipated town meeting was going to start at noon. I don't know why I had noon in my head, but it's 2. Did last year go 3 hours? I'm trying to remember if it went till 5.
I don't think it went a full 3, Libby. I don't.
I don't think it went to 5.
I feel like it ended on an hour, so it was either 2 or it was 3. but
Special town meeting went an hour longer than we had anticipated. Special town meeting was 3 hours, and that was one article.
Okay.
Special town meeting started at noon, but annual town meeting last June was 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just at the time was thinking it would be new, but anyway, so depending on how that works out, and if I can get, I know that Bill Reard is going to speak on Article 20. If needed, just as Dave said, it'll be one of those things depending on how much discussion or questions come up from people. And I know he has some comments prepared, but I think if there was some question about the financing, that was possibly going to be something that I might have to discuss. But I guess I just mentioned that if I need backup, if something happens and I can't get my flight changed and I have to leave before that article, I'll let you know as soon as I can what my flight arrangements are.
We have a relatively small number of articles this year.
Yeah, that was my hope was it would be expedient, but.
And I think the big question is, are we going to spend a lot of time on Article 6? The budgets?
Yeah. So I know we don't know that. I'm just throwing it out there that it's possible I might have to leave at say 4:30 if the meeting, if for some reason they're not to Article 20, I might need someone to cover if a question comes up about the debt.
Okay, so I'm a total nerd, but last year I wrote down what time we ended. It was 4:51, so it was just before 5.
Okay.
Is that because you won the pool?
I think I won the pool for special town meeting because I had the dimmest view of how quickly that meeting would go, but I don't. Nancy McDonald.
I won. You're
Regular town
confused, Bob, because Julie has been trying to spend my $56 since before it hit my pocket, which I will spend one day at the Snug with all of you.
Ray Estes, are you going to speak on accessory dwelling units?
I am.
And so does it make sense for you to speak first, followed by Andy?
I mean, that's really your call, Bob. I mean, I am the lead petitioner, but I'm not going to say anything that's going to be controversial or dispute the recommendation. So I want to speak because it was our petition initially, and I want to give it some color, but I don't intend to speak long or be controversial.
So Andy, would you prefer to go first?
No, I think Ray should go first, and then the second speaker is going to be actually Gordon Carr from the planning board.
Correct.
So unless Ray and Gordon have some preference as to who to speak, I think hearing from the lead petitioner would make sense on the article, and then hear from the planning board.
Okay, that was up in the air on Sunday, wasn't it?
The order was up in the air. Correct.
Right. So I'll let Mike Puzo know that Ray will speak first, followed by Gordon.
Correct.
And if Gordon prefers to speak, that's fine with me.
Recommendation is actually, the recommendation isn't what the planning board, it's substantively what the planning board proposed, right? But it's our recommendation, but it's not the petition. So, I mean, Ray, if you go first, you're sort of in an awkward position where you're speaking to a recommendation, which is not what you were asking.
Right, I understand, and that's why I defer to you to decide how you want to handle it. But again, I'm not going to dispute. I'm supporting the recommendation of the advisory committee, and I'm going to make that clear in my comments. So it's up to you.
I was
Victor,
hoping for a little town meeting controversy. That would have been a little fun.
Victor, it sounds like you think, and I can't disagree, that perhaps under the circumstances, Gordon should go first then?
I think it seems more logical.
Okay, that
Fine.
makes sense to me.
Okay, I will change my marching orders then. And
Gordon, Ray, and then if the advisory committee has to be heard from, then I'm in the bleachers,
okay,
or in the hole, I guess.
any other questions or issues about town meeting? I do anticipate posting an AdCom meeting for 11 on Saturday morning by Zoom. I fully expect to cancel that meeting, but it's just in the event that something comes up that we need to address. I mean, there'll be one agenda item, discussion of any last minute issues concerning the town meeting.
Can't we do the minutes too?
We could do the minute, well, yeah, I think we'll leave the minutes. I don't want to have a Saturday meeting just to end up approving some minutes.
Oh, wait a minute here.
Where's my mute button?
Wow.
George gets overtime on Saturdays.
That's right. That's right.
I have to be at First Communion on Saturday morning, so I won't be at that meeting. Is it necessary for us to vote the Plymouth River article?
Oh, we're going to do that next.
Okay.
So if Daveline, did you have
Yeah.
another?
I did. I just had a question. So in terms of like the gender neutral article, so I should wait to see if I'm just trying to get the logistics. So how do we know we don't need to speak? Do you see what I'm saying? So are we assuming if no one says anything or no one stands at a microphone?
Typically, Michael reads at least a summary of the recommended motion,
Right.
Which I'd expect he would do on the gender neutral article,
Right.
rather than read it verbatim. And then he asks, is there discussion? And if he sees that people are coming forward to microphones, which may take a few moments, I think he would then turn to the advisory committee designee, or with respect to other articles. And, it would then be your position to speak.
Okay.
If there's no discussion, he would typically say, then we come to vote.
Which would be wonderful. Yeah, I'm just trying to, I wasn't at the last two town meetings, and I've never had the responsibility to represent the advisory committee on something that we thought there would be discussion, because we didn't think Hannah Whiting would have a discussion, for example. So I just wanted to be clear, because that wasn't clear to me from Sunday's meeting. Thank you.
Liza, I think, is scheduled to go first, isn't she?
No, Liza
Okay.
said she was, that we were to go first. I mean, that's what she said at the moderators meeting, so.
Yeah,
I think that
I would expect that this could generate some discussion. And I think you should be prepared to speak.
Oh,
Michael often will say, in this case, Ms. Cooper from the advisory committee.
Yeah.
So if he thinks that a speaker from AdCom is, needs to go up there, he generally does it right away.
okay. Well, I will be prepared. That's not, that wasn't my, I will be prepared to speak. I was just trying to figure out how I know to come forward to, that was my point.
He tends to look to if he thinks that there's a need for discussion, he does tend to call on the AdCom person or whoever he has on his list as leading off. But, you may want to just sort of keep his eye, sort of try to catch his eye.
Okay.
I don't think there'll be much ambiguity about whether you need to speak or not.
Okay. And I'll be prepared in any event. That's not the, okay, thank you.
I'll give you the Yankee Steel sign.
They are playing the Astros tonight. So speaking of stealing.
Well, then maybe we should move along to our next agenda item.
It's taping.
Was there anything else on town meeting? Okay, if anybody has a question that comes up, let Julie or myself know, and we'll get you an answer before Saturday. So then we come to further discussion and vote on Article U, the Plymouth River School windows. And I've circulated Dave's recommended motion, which is basically the MSBA recommended language. Dave, do you want to address the amount?
Sure. Yeah, just to refresh people's memory, we did already vote the comment, and it's in the warrant with a recommendation to come. We now have, thanks to Ray Estes, who's on the phone tonight, and John Ferris and other folks' good, diligent work, we have an estimate which comes in at just shy of $4 million and includes 20% project contingency. So there's some room there, given that there's still some unknowns. I think in broad strokes, if you figure just for easy numbers that it's $4 million flat, we've got $1 million in the bank from the Alliance Broadstone, and then we're going to get somewhere in the low 30% range of reimbursement on the majority of these expenses from the MSBA is anticipated. And so the town will ultimately, be spending less than 50%, meaningfully less than 50% of a $4 million project if it comes in that high, which is a pretty good deal for the town. So that's where we stand. Ray's on the call if people have questions that I can't answer, and then, but also no need to belabor it if we don't want to. And I probably won't read the whole recommended motion, but the recommended amount is now going to go in to the recommended motion as presented by the project manager as $3.936 million.
Dave, if I could just say one thing.
Sure.
So I just wanted to add, Linda Hill, our chair, the building committee chair, and one of the articles obviously being considered is to have the building committee handle this project. We've already started to do some work on it. The school committee just isn't equipped, and the administration doesn't have really the time, and it makes sense for us to do it. That being the case, Linda Hill, our chair, is going to be traveling, so she's asked me to field any questions that come up. I'm really not anticipating anything like you said to be controversial. This number is, not only does it include the contingency that Dave pointed out, but these numbers are conservative numbers. They're order of magnitude numbers that aren't based on any real design, but they're sufficiently conservative so that we feel reasonably confident that this will cover the project. And just in terms of, there was some question about reimbursable expenses versus things that the MSBA does not participate in. Those would likely be limited to the ADA compliance issues that may be triggered. And we don't know if any will be triggered. Some of you may recall 12 years ago when we did some work on the building with $3.5 million. There were some ADA compliance issues that were triggered. And as a result, the windows that we had hoped to complete weren't able to be completed. There's a threshold that's statutory. It's a 30% of property value threshold. So depending on what the value of the project or the project costs, if you will, are, and the ratio to the value of the property, which is determined by the assessed value and a formula that's determined by statute. It may trigger ADA compliance issues in addition to those that were performed 12 or so years ago. So that item is listed in here. But again, it's only those items for ADA compliance upgrades that may or may not be necessary, which would not be reimbursable by the MSBA. Otherwise, everything else should be reimbursable at the rate that we've been assigned, which is 33.95.
Thanks, Ray.
Yeah, I was happy to see the $500,000 contingency. That seems to put a pretty good cushion in there.
I see Bolibi and Nancy have questions.
Nancy. Go ahead, Nancy.
Yeah, this is just a procedural question, and just remind me, Dave, I think we've talked about this before, but is this we pay it all and then submit for reimbursement, or is it submitted for reimbursement by the invoice?
We, as I understand it, Ray, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a pay-as-you-go reimbursement to a certain extent, but the real kicker is that we need to approve the full amount.
That I know, but the reimbursement is
my
by the
understanding is
invoice?
it's pay-as-you-go, but I'm not
Okay,
quite sure
great.
what that means. Ray could probably speak to that better than me.
Yeah, that's right. It is a pay-as-you-go system, which is different than it used to be before the new regime started up with the East School project. So as we get invoices from the contractor, the school building committee, they get reviewed by the project manager, recommended, they get approved, and they get submitted through what's called the pro-pay system with the MSBA. So it's all set up, and it's a process that we've utilized before with the middle school project. So we'll get reimbursement payments from time to time received, and they go into the town, and we get notification of them, and they just get applied to the ledger entry as we submit the invoices.
Great. Thank you, Ray. I appreciate that.
And Libby?
Yeah, also, as far as the $1 million, are we putting the full even though technically, if you call it 4, we're really, the town's really appropriating 3, but are we putting this in there as 4 because for the purpose of MSBA's approval, or should this number be 3 million? Since we already have the $1 million. We're not appropriating.
It may be more, it's a good question. It may be more of a Sue question, because I think just because that money is restricted right now, it may still require an appropriation. The $1 million that you're talking about, I don't know if Sue's on the line, but that was my understanding, because I think that that's a good question. I mean, Libby, I hear you. And I guess my only thought was, having not put as much thought as you did into it, was that the appropriation was required one way or another, whether it was coming out of restricted fund balance or coming out of other sources.
Yeah, we might just want to clarify, because I can see that question coming up at town meeting. So we might as well, from someone may notice the comment and bring that up. So it might just be something we want to clarify. And then
is Sue on the line?
I don't think
Sue is at the Board of Selectmen's meeting, and she will be joining us as soon as the matters that she needs to address at the Board of Selectmen have been acted on by that board. So we can ask her.
Bob, I have one other quick question.
Yeah,
and I don't know if this is for you, Ray, or but Daveline and I know well from the school capital that the vestibule piece of the Plymouth River is like a boomerang. We actually funded $50,000 for that in fiscal 20, which I think the school department might have reallocated that capital. We funded another $80,000 in fiscal 21 because they said the cost was now going to be, I think at that point, 130. And it's currently in the capital. If you look at the capital budget and the warrant, it's in for fiscal 23 at 250K. So I see it as part of this project now at 90. So either the school department's estimate of the 250 that's in the out year is just way off. Do we know, is this estimate, did this come from the firms that put this together? Do we know? I'm just curious that it's because it's in here as 90.
So I don't know where those prior numbers came from. So I'll have to check with John Ferris. This 90 is based on really nothing. It's an order of magnitude cost from the architect on this project. But I agree with you that if money has been allocated in capital previously, we should figure that out. But that's a school committee issue, I think.
Yeah, I think that when we have brought that up, I think if we look at previous capital budgets, they because they can reallocate that money as they see fit once the total dollar amounts allocated by capital, then their capital subcommittee and the school committee get together and vote how they're going to spend it. So while we've allocated it and appropriated it for that, they've used it for other things. But I guess, so you're saying that's kind of an estimate from the architect for the 90?
Yes, we asked him when he was putting together the scope and an order of magnitude number for this purpose, we asked him to include the vestibule that we hope to be able to have done as part of this project.
Yeah.
I frankly don't know what the school committee has done with that other money that was earmarked for it. So I'd have to ask them.
Yeah, and I'd wrap it up by saying that, I mean, from capital's perspective, I guess since we in our minds have already funded it to the tune of about 130, if that money was reallocated to something else, then I'm glad the vestibule is part of this project, because then they won't be coming back to capital looking for money for that. So I would just say from the capital perspective, I'm glad it's in there so that we don't kind of see it again on their plan from capital.
That's a good point, Libby. Thanks.
Yep.
And Alan?
Thanks. I certainly am supportive of this, Ray. You're bringing up a real nadir in my life memories on the on how the ADA regulations jump in. And I guess, do you know any more about what risks might be as to how money gets divided? I forget what the triggers are, but that was, I mean, I so distinctly remember watching what we anticipated doing get eaten away by, no, if you open this, you've got to do this with the ADA stuff.
Right. So there's a couple things. One, there's a percentage trigger. So it's 30%. So if the project costs meet or exceed 30% of the value of the property, and there's a statutory formula to determine the value of the property by using the assessed value and applying a formula. If it meets or exceeds the 30% threshold, then that triggers certain ADA compliance issues. We have discussed with the architect the potential items that might be identified. There's a possibility that some variances could be pursued rather than having to address those items, but there are other items which may need to be addressed. So it's really unclear until we get to that point. The other issue it's not on here is whether a sprinkler system will be triggered. It wasn't previously when you did the work 12 years ago, Alan, but as we talked about the scope of this project and discussed whether to pursue, if anybody knows anything about this building, you'll recall that as part of the project 12 years ago, we opened up the clear story windows in the art room or in a classroom to make it an art room where there previously was no art room because of overcrowding, right? So they had closed off the ceiling, but now it was opened up and there's these lovely windows which bring in tremendous natural light. There are dozens of these windows throughout the building. And part of the discussion we had in terms of scope was suggesting whether we should pursue opening up all of those as we did with the room that became the art room. But it seems clear that the cost is pretty high. And if we did that, it would require opening up all the ceilings, and the architect feels pretty certain that that would trigger the requirement to sprinkler the building, which would be another probably $500,000 at least. So we, after discussing it in the committee and with the superintendent, we decided not to pursue that avenue with those windows, because the likelihood is, well, with this grant, the building's got to remain in place for at least 20 years anyway, or there'll be a clawback. And we reasoned that the likelihood of any other significant renovation being done that might trigger that in the next 20 years is very low. And if anything, 20 years from now, or perhaps sooner, somebody may pursue replacing the building. So we reasoned that it was likely not a good way to go in terms of opening up the ceilings and those windows that might trigger some prohibitive costs.
And I guess I was wondering, if do you even split it into 2 years or something, if it did trigger other stuff? I mean, again, things that we did, moving the ramp, the ramp was 7 degrees or 8 degrees, and it had to be 7.5 degrees. And we had to spend $20,000, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, the only consideration we had was that the problem with this work is that, the plan is to do it in the summer of 22. Obviously, when there's no kids in the building, it's difficult to do this type of work when it's occupied. So it would be a challenge. It could be spread, I guess, over multiple years and done in the summertime, but we just.
I don't know that I'm proposing it. I guess if you're running into the risk of diverting money to do other stuff, changing things into PVC instead of aluminum or whatever it is. You're on it. Go for it. Thanks. Thanks.
Sue, welcome back. You can resume your duties as hostess if you'd like. I think you already have.
I know I haven't, but I can if you want me to.
We had a question for you on the Plymouth River School windows article, which was whether the amount should be 3.9 million or 2.9 million because of the $1 million that we already have from the developer. And is there a need to appropriate that $1 million that was made available to the town specifically?
No, because it was put in a special fund for the windows.
Okay.
So we already have it. I don't think you have to have an appropriation for that because it was specifically for the windows, and it's in an account for the windows.
Bob, the other sort of reason I brought that up also is that, and I don't know if John Ferris or someone from the school department can answer this, is the warrant may need to show the full amount for the purpose of the MSBA approval. And I don't know, Ray, if you know that, but the answer to that. But so it's kind of a two-pronged thing as far as what are we really asking town meeting? We're really only asking them to appropriate, 2.9. But on the other side, I don't know what MSBA requires in order to provide the full project funding, because we want the reimbursement on the gross amount and not the net to maximize our MSBA reimbursement.
That's a good point.
I can answer that. The MSBA does require that the gross amount be shown because that's the amount that's going to be used to determine what the reimbursement would be. Obviously, it's the actual project costs that get submitted through the ProPay system of the MSBA, which get considered for reimbursement. And then the applicable reimbursement percentage is applied. So it's not necessarily this number. For instance, if we go out to bid on this and the number comes in lower, then obviously it'll be the lower number, which is the basis for both the project cost and the reimbursement thereof. But I think for MSBA purposes, the gross amount needs to be in here. And then how we figure out how to pay for it from this account, from that account is up to us.
But Bob, I guess maybe for the lawyers in the in the room, of which there are many. The question seems to me is kind of the operative question about what the word appropriate means. I mean, the risk that Libby's bringing up, not that it would be likely, obviously, would be that we, as I'm proposing, we recommend to appropriate an amount not to exceed 3.993, and that somehow that could become 4.993, you know, with the $1 million in the account. I mean, that's obviously the doomsday oops scenario. I don't see how that happens, but I guess the question comes down to, it seems unusual if the recommended motion could have a clarifying clause that just says to be, you know, to avoid, for the avoidance of doubt, this includes the $1 million set aside and so forth. I mean, I'm open to any suggestion to make sure we get it clear.
Doesn't the comment already address the $1 million?
Comment absolutely does, but the comment also is silent as to the precise amount, since the comment didn't know the precise amount. It speaks in generalities.
And the number again, I wrote down 3,936,000 before.
No, it's 3,993,600. 3.9 is $3,993,600.
Okay. Okay. So it sounds like the safe course of action is to use that in the recommended motion and to otherwise just keep the recommended motion the way the MSBA wanted.
Okay, so we'll refer to appropriating 3.9936.
And it's ultimately going to be borrowing, right? There's a borrowing authorization.
Yes.
There's a borrowing authorization in the recommendation.
Yeah, you also have to have the borrowing language in there too.
Yeah, that's in there.
Yeah, the premium. Yep, I got
Yep.
all that stuff.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. David, you had a question?
I was just going to say, it says not to exceed that amount. So it's not saying that we're actually appropriating that specific. It's appropriating not to exceed. So.
Yep, that's a good point too.
Okay.
I wrote it. I should have known that.
Are there any other questions?
Dave, if I could just say one more thing. So in the comment, I noticed that you've got the reimbursement rate at 31.5 or at least 31.5%. So one of the comments that we had gotten from the MSBA when they reviewed the proposed article and comment was that the MSBA prefers that the maximum rate be used and not a minimum rate. So we had received no specific document which assigned our reimbursement rate for this project from the MSBA other than what was in an email from one of the members of the MSBA, and it's 33.95%. It's the base rate assigned to us for the year 2020. It's also the same base rate that we'll use for the Foster School project, except that rate could be more than that because there are additional things that can be added to it. There can be nothing else that gets added to this one for this project because the program is different. So I don't know if you need in your, when you print out your recommended motion, if you need to put a note about the comment that the 31 point, I don't know if you want to do that or not. It's up to you, but the MSBA specifically mentioned that they prefer that the actual rate be shown in the comment rather than the minimum.
Well, I mean, I guess we could add a supplement to the comment, one sentence, if we needed to. I mean, the comment doesn't control, obviously, and it does say at least 31.5, which was the best number we had at the time of the comment. I mean, I hear you, Ray. It's just a question of whether it won't get in the warrant booklet under any circumstances. The only question is, does a handout at the front door make a difference?
Can you
Right.
add
I just wanted to raise it. I mean,
yeah, no, it's a fair point.
I mean, similar to the fact that the motion has to have language that says if we get invited to cooperate when we've already received the invitation. So it's hoop jumping for the MSBA.
Libby, we don't want to change anything in the recommendation because that's basically language that's been vetted by the MSBA, and they don't want to see any departure from that. So, I mean, we could, in a supplement, change maybe express a range of potential reimbursements as a minimum and a maximum, I think I'd be inclined to just leave it alone. And if there's a need to explain that at the town meeting, we can do that. But Dave, do you want to talk with John Ferris about that tomorrow? And
I think John's view is not deviant from Ray's or divergent from Ray's. I guess my gut reaction would be I would suggest that we said at least. We didn't know, it was the best number we had at the time of the comment. In a weird way, a supplemental comment with the rate when we don't even know exactly I don't know. I'm sorry, I'm just talking in circles. I'm with you, Bob. I mean, unless we thought it was a real risk, to me, we could defend the fact that the comment said at least, and it was the best number we had at the time, and that was that, and move on. But it's no skin off my back to write a sentence in advance of the recommended motion that just says that, upon new information, the MSBA rate is anticipated to be 33.95%. I mean, that's easy.
And Dave, ultimately, the only thing that's going to really matter is, assuming this passes, is the MSBA receives the certified vote, and it's not going to include the comment in it, so it doesn't matter.
Right. Yes. I mean, they'll look at the recommended motion, which hopefully complies, and everything else is. That's I think where Bob was coming from too, and just saying like, let's just,
yeah,
forgiveness if it comes to that point.
Yeah, I'd still be inclined to just leave it alone.
Okay.
Sue, did the selectmen vote this tonight?
They already had.
I think, yeah, they already did. They
vote
voted
the
it
number?
without an amount.
No, I voted without a number.
And they didn't revisit it tonight?
It wasn't on the agenda.
Okay. All right. Is there any further discussion? So I assume, Dave, you're making the recommended motion, and
I will. I'll read just the first few lines. I recommend that the town appropriate an amount not to exceed $3,993,600 for the purpose of paying costs of a window replacement project at Plymouth River School located at 200 High Street, Hingham, 02043, which would replace necessary doors, windows, and make other repairs or replacements as necessary to meet MSBA requirements, including the payment of all costs incidental or related thereto.
is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? We come to vote. Tina,
Aye.
Brenda,
Aye.
Eveline,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Kristen,
Aye.
Libby,
Aye.
Al,
Aye.
Nancy,
Aye.
Andy,
Aye.
Victor,
Aye.
Evan,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Aaron,
Aye.
and George.
Aye.
Just check the address. I don't want to be replacing Nancy McDonald's windows. Okay.
We're all good here.
So we 14-0.
14-0.
Okay.
Bob, just because we're out of the warrant's already gone, do I just send this to you now? Do any of the editors want to take a look, or what are we?
I'm happy
I-
to do it real
if we
quick
can-
if you want me to.
We can run it by the editors. That would be great. I mean, I was going to put together tomorrow the supplemental report of the advisory committee. And it will be this article plus Article 11. So Nancy, if you could do a quick run through on both of them, and then we can get it off to town hall. They can make copies to their heart's content.
Okay, I'll send it to Nancy right now then with a copy to you, Bob.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
And next on the agenda is the review and approval of minutes from the meeting of April 27th. You gonna leave, Ray? Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Ray.
And George has circulated a red line of those minutes that, is there any further discussion of the minutes? I don't see any, so is there a motion to approve the minutes as revised by George?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Come to vote, Tina?
I was not present.
All right, Brenda?
Aye.
Daveline?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Kristen?
Aye.
Libby?
I was not there, so I abstain.
Okay, thank you. Al?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Andy?
Aye.
Victor?
Aye.
Evan?
Aye.
Julie?
Aye.
Aaron? Aaron, did you say aye?
Aye.
Thank you. And George?
Aye.
Okay, so I guess that's 12:02.
Yep.
Okay. Then, now that we have Sue back with us, we can go to the next item, which is the discussion and vote on Article 11, which is the reserve fund transfer. And this was late information. And I think I sent you all an Excel spreadsheet on this. Does anybody have any questions?
Bob, I know, actually, I don't know if this is for Sue. I think last year or in a previous year, Sue, you sent me the legal. Is that something we have a breakout of, like by what sort of category that 717 is for? Do you have that?
I have a rough estimate. Can everybody hear me? Because I think my computer is freezing up a little bit.
I can hear you.
I can hear you too, Sue.
Okay. Okay. General legal is about 120. Litigation was about 275. Personnel was about 75. And real estate was, the big whopper was over $210,000. Just to let you know that Susan Murphy is helping out quite a bit in the planning department, since we do not have a planning department, and that's why hers is so high. We are going through it, and these are all estimates because, of course, we still don't have April, May, and June bills in there. So we were very conservative on our estimates.
Why is the litigations? I'm just trying to think of what big litigation that the town's has going on. Is it anything that's public or?
It's above my pay grade.
And then Bob, should we ask also on the, like the other one you sent for the property and liability? I know it looks like there's a couple of different categories that make up the 353 as far as the premiums, and then the other amount for the settlement. Do we know what those two components are?
We do, and as a matter of fact, that's our next agenda item.
Because I know it's on this reserve fund transfer. Okay, and then
we have a separate reserve fund transfer that specifically addresses that item.
okay, and then do we know, like the fire? I mean, just a quick caption of what the fire expenses are.
Yeah, they had unanticipated expenses for repair of some of the buildings. Two of them were $43,000 for the molds at North Street Station, and some air duct services on all three fire stations for 13,000. So it's about over $50,000 worth of repairs that were unanticipated.
Okay. And then the workman's comp, that's a premium?
Now,
Or do we
workers'
pay- or
comp
do we
is,
pay?
I was really hoping I didn't have to do this. These are for claims, and we are settling somebody who is coming off workers' comp and going into a disability retirement.
Okay. And then is that 50K for town meeting? Is that comparable to what it was last year for the outdoor meeting?
Well, actually, no, it's because we had a special town meeting that was not budgeted for.
Oh, so this 50 is for the special town meeting?
Well, it's a combination of, yeah, we just don't have the budget to do 2 town meetings.
Okay.
So 50,000 will cover the special town meeting and any additional costs.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
And Victor, I think this is technically your article. I don't know whether you want to, you saw the numbers the same time the rest of us did. Anything you want to add?
I think Libby went down through all the questions nicely. I don't really have any other insight. So this is, yeah, we haven't spent anything yet this year, obviously, as you point out. And so the balance is the 588, 884 that we're looking for. Is that right?
Right. Yep. Yeah.
And then, following up on the question I had sent you earlier in the week, we're expecting a budget surplus at the end of the year. So, and we'll go through our usual interdepartmental, intra-departmental transfers. So to the extent that we don't actually need this 588, at that point, it would just go back into the fund balance. Is that right? Or am I missing?
Exactly.
Oh.
But these, nope, you got it. But the surplus, basically, the 1.7 is because state aid came in and at 100% instead of what we forecasted. I do not know right now what departments will be turning back. If anything, I do have a few departments that have, I know will return money, but not enough to, not my knowledge right now, I do not anticipate huge savings. So that's why we're doing it. But yes, if we don't use it, everything will fall right to fund balance.
And the Q3 financials that I sent out yesterday indicate the surplus is now down close to $1 million. So the 1.7 million is still not presently the operative number.
Yeah, I
And
noticed.
so one question on that. So just say if it ends up being $1 million, then the financial management plan, I think, had like 3.33 million that was in fund balance for fiscal 21 for potential revenue shortfalls. So then with that, if let's just say the ending surplus ends up at $1 million, so then effectively we
only use 2.3.
Yeah, we required then 2.3 as opposed to the full 3.3 in order to balance the budget. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And so I don't know if you do that
honestly,
quarterly.
the three.
Oh. What
Do
was that?
what?
All right.
You know the quarterly sheet
What
that
do we
Bob
do?
sent out? Is that, I don't know, is that something that you do or Michelle does? Because I just had one thing to point out on it. That, should I let you know?
It's a combination of everybody.
Okay. You know, I'll email you separately, you and Michelle.
Yeah, you can do it. Yeah, because it's not on the agenda. So yeah, email me separately, Libby.
Yeah, because one of the tabs just is missing a number, so the numbers don't add up. So, okay, thanks.
Well, that actually is something we could discuss later on matters not anticipated within 48 hours, because it only became available yesterday and was sent out at that time. So to the extent that folks have questions about it, we could address it later in the meeting. Coming back to Article 11.
I'm ready to make a recommendation.
Okay.
Okay, so I would recommend that the town transfer the sum of $588,884 from available funds to the town's reserve fund for use during fiscal year 2021.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? We come to vote. Tina,
Aye.
Brenda,
Aye.
Eveline,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Kristen,
Aye.
Libby,
Aye.
Al,
Aye.
Nancy? You're on mute.
Aye.
Thanks. Andy,
Aye.
Victor,
Aye.
Evan,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Aaron,
Aye.
and George.
Aye.
So we got 14-0.
So Bob, you're just going to plug that into your report. You don't need anything from me.
I don't. I'm just gonna basically put the number in, and we should be all set.
Okay.
And then we come to the specific reserve fund transfer request from the Property and Liability Insurance Department, which is the 353,047. Are there questions that people have on this?
I just have the question on the breakout. What, it looks like part of it's for premiums and part of it is for a settlement.
Yeah, there's the difference is $115,000. And there's a settlement of an insurance coverage dispute that is being addressed by that amount of money.
So the 115 is a settlement and the remainder is premiums?
Yeah, there's
Yes.
a deficit in the budget due to increased premiums, which are primarily related to the large property losses that we've seen before, but also to some extent because of increased values of real property and newer motor vehicles that, of course, command higher collision and comprehensive premiums. Any other questions or discussions on this?
So how do the amounts now tie up with what we're recommending for this category in the coming year's budget? I guess I could pull out.
Oh, for 22?
Yeah, for 22.
I believe I did a 10% increase. Yeah, for 22, we have $1,028,087.
So
I
why
have
would,
not gotten any news from our broker yet on what's going to happen. Who asked a question?
And the town is
I'm
going
sorry, I
out
was looking at
to,
my warrant book.
the town is going out to the market in, I believe, August to seek better rates, as I recall. Andy,
The document says to fund a settlement with the insurance company regarding an insurance coverage dispute. So this is the town's contribution to the settlement with the claimant. Is that?
no,
I'm sorry. Pardon?
no, the town is not contributing to a settlement with a claimant. The insurance company is paying the settlement. The town is settling an insurance coverage dispute with the insurance company
So
by paying the insurance company $115,000.
Is this the fire department issue?
I'm not at liberty to say anything about the underlying personnel matter. And I will tell you that Julie and George and I were all briefed on this confidentially, in a privileged context, in detail. And we are all satisfied that the actions taken on behalf of the town are in the town's best interest.
So why is the town, I mean, putting aside the detail to that matter, why is the town paying the insurance company something?
Because there was a coverage dispute between the insurance company and the town. You might, in the nature of a reservation of rights, as to whether the insurance company had any coverage for a part of the claim. And
So they had paid and then we were under reservation of rights, so we were paying back.
I can't get into the precise timing, but I think that's the concept.
At least that makes more sense to me, because it didn't make sense to me to say that the premiums would change mid-year. I mean, because that's, of course, the whole point of insurance is that as issues come up, they pay it, notwithstanding a deductible or something, but that wouldn't be that much. Anyway, sorry, I don't want to become insurance guy.
Other questions or discussion? If not, then I guess we would come to vote. Is there a motion to approve the reserve fund transfer in the amount of $353,047 to the property and liability insurance account?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Tina,
Aye.
Brenda,
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Kristen,
Aye.
Libby.
I think I'm gonna vote no.
Al,
Aye.
Nancy,
Aye.
Andy,
Aye.
Victor,
Abstain.
Evan,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Aaron,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
and David.
Aye.
Bob, could I go back to, could I abstain? I kind of already voted yes, but I feel like
I have no objection to, does anyone else have an objection?
No.
I think that would make it 11, 1, and 2. Okay. Libby, do you want to be, well, this isn't an article. All right, so the recorded in opposition procedure doesn't apply.
No, I mean, it could come up as far as the reserve fund transfer article, but I don't need to be recorded.
Okay. We come to liaison reports, and Daveline, you indicated you had a report.
I did. The Affordable Housing Trust met last week, and there were several things that came up at their meeting that I thought would be both updates and of interest to this committee. First, with administrative support from the town, every financial transaction since the beginning of the trust is now accounted for, and they will be able to do this on a yearly basis, and that will hopefully make CPC happy and the Board of Selectmen happy and us happy. So, and that's been done with the assistance of Michael, who's the new person in Emily Wentworth's office. Secondly, the trust's housing plan is in its final draft form. It will be presented to the planning board in mid-June. And many things in the master plan also coincide with what's in the housing plan. So that will be good, and that will be then available to everyone to see as well. The third thing, the decision was made to sell the 2 units on Road Circle once they have been renovated. If you remember, the trust bought that property. It's a 2-family, and so they will make it into 2 condominiums. They have a grant to do some of the work. There was a lot of discussion as to whether or not they would keep the units and rent them or whether they would sell them. And after much discussion, they decided that it would be better or more effective to sell the units when they're finished. And just as an aside from that, the current numbers for affordable housing units in Hingham, there are 586 rental units. 272 of those are at Linden Ponds, and there are 29 ownership units that are on the affordable housing inventory. And so that, I think, was part of the reason why in this context, it was thought that selling this made more sense. There is a lot of discussion about there needs to be some kind of large scale affordable housing project. There's a lot of time spent on these 1 by 1 or 2 units. And then the final thing, which I thought people would be interested in June, the Housing Trust will have its reorganization meeting, and they will be having a new treasurer, because Anita Comfort, who's done an incredible job, I think, as treasurer, is actually moving out of Hingham, at least temporarily, so she can't be the treasurer. And Tim White is going to step down as chair. So there will be a new chair. I think he's staying on the committee, but he's stepping down as chair. So I just thought those were all things people would be interested in. And if not, then I took up your time for nothing.
I found them all interesting, David. Thank you. And
David, can I just ask a quick question, Bob?
sure.
David, do you have any idea? Is there kind of an heir apparent to Tim on that committee?
No, I was actually very surprised to hear that. And I have a couple of ideas of people, but there's no one that I sort of came up to, they don't have a vice chair. Or if they do, I don't know that, I guess, which would not be good.
So that the new chair would take over on what time frame?
I think the idea is they would take over in June.
Okay.
At the end of that meeting. I think
Yep,
that.
gotcha.
Sue, I actually meant to ask you earlier if the Board of Selectmen tonight voted in favor of the reserve fund transfers.
For Article 11, yes, and for the reserve fund transfer, yes. Both 3-0.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Hey, Bob.
Yes.
I didn't give you a heads up, but it occurred to me that there was a water transition meeting earlier this week that Kristen attended. If you're okay with getting a quick update on that.
Absolutely.
So they went over just a couple of things during the meeting. They're doing a cost of service study from Abrahams & Co., which is just looking at the first year of the water company and now looking at a possible rate increase in the coming years, looking at all that, the billing from previous. And then they're also working on the master plan with environmental partners, looking at the infrastructure, the storage facilities, and unaccounted for water to see where there could be issues with the systems there. So they're working on that as well. And then also just a little bit of update on the billing transition, which is, they said, is going smoothly with everyone having to create new accounts again for their water bills. So that was about it.
Good.
Thanks, Kristen.
And any other liaison reports?
Bob, can I ask a question about that? And I don't know if it'd be for Kristen or Dave, but I know on the most recent information we have is that the legal reimbursement that's coming from the water company to the towns, $1.8 million. I say legal, but I mean, we know that it was from all the previous costs that were spent on the transition. But I thought that previous number was somewhere in the $1.2 million 5 or so. I know there's definitely been a bump up from what we had been discussing previously. And I'm just wondering what's the reason? And you may not have the answer now, but is that something that somebody can look into? Let me know.
You're talking about the refund of the money the town meeting advanced over the years?
Yes.
Sue might know, but I thought it was just, we just summed up the amount of money that was put forth to, well, there was a separate article related to transition expenses, which I would think
Yeah.
was around $250,000 or so, wasn't it? Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes, you are.
And then, so it's that plus then the, the annual or multiple advances of dollars at the town meeting. Is that what you're getting at, Libby? Just a reconciliation of that?
Yeah, but I'm saying from what we were looking at before to the current amount of $1.8 million, there's a decent jump, and I think it'd be informative for us to see what what constitutes that $1.8 million.
Okay, I'll talk to Sue about it offline and I'll get back to you guys.
Okay, thanks.
Julie has a question.
Julie.
I have a question back to Davidlene's report. Is that all right?
Sure.
Davidlene, when the rental units were listed, rental and ownership affordable units were listed or discussed at the meeting, did they talk about what the current percentage is for the town of affordable housing? I mean, I know we've hit our threshold, but have we made any changes in what they deem to be our percentage?
They did not, and it would be unusual for them to talk about that because their view is meeting that threshold is totally insufficient for Hingham in terms of affordable housing. So whenever the issue comes up of being a concern about meeting the 10%, their response is the 10% is irrelevant. We should have more affordable housing. So I think, and you've probably heard Tim White say that from time to time. So they don't talk about it in that context. But those numbers had just come from a report that Emily Wentworth had provided. Mm-hmm. So I think that probably related, but we're not in danger of not meeting the threshold until I think it's 2030 maybe is the next time they're concerned about that, as I recall. Okay, but that's not coming from them. That's just not their issue.
And did anything come up to do with land behind Old Ship Church meeting house or their parish house, or anything to do with the Lincoln House?
Any discussions about Old Ship are in executive session, and I would obviously am not part of that. And also as a member of Old Ship, I have carefully kept myself away from any discussions with the trust that relate to Old Ship. What I will say, there is discussion, there is property that, the trust has property at 499 Cushing Street that they've been looking at whether they could develop more property there. And there are several acres that are also possibly available there that one could build a bigger project. So they have been looking at that. So I don't think it's actually, well, I don't know what they will plan to buy. I guess I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
But I'm not privy to anything with respect to Old Ship.
Okay, thanks.
Andy?
Maybe I just ask people knowledge about real estate. Do people have success selling 2-unit condominiums? It would strike me as an ongoing management nightmares, but I don't know anything about it.
They would sell each unit to an individual.
Correct, but as a condominium unit, then you have both unit owners are members of this condominium association.
They will have a 2-member condominium association, yes.
Does that work?
Andy, I assume when people are looking for affordable housing, the idea of being able to buy a condo in Hingham that's affordable is something people will do. I don't think they'll have a problem with buying.
The only reason I raise it as as I said, it just strikes me as a nightmare, but it would be relevant, I assume, to the determination of whether it's better to rent or to sell as condos. And but apparently that wasn't discussed.
Well, what was discussed was what was the benefit of renting it versus the benefit of selling it. And in fact, the housing authority does better financially by selling the units because the money they sell it for can then be put back into buying other units. And if they rent it, they also have to have a management company, which would probably be the Hingham Housing Authority, would have to manage. And then they'd have also a lot of expenses. So they actually did a spreadsheet showing what were the expenses in both processes. And it's better for the housing authority to sell it. It's also better, the thought is, for people to engage in owning something rather than renting it.
When you were saying housing authority, did you mean the trust?
No, the discussion was if they were to rent it, because the trust isn't really in a position to be a management authority.
Okay.
I mean, they're renting a unit right now while they're trying to develop it, and that's, they're not landlords. So they had been in discussions with the Hingham Housing Authority, which is now directed by the executive director of the Quincy Housing Authority, and he would be there. They would be the ones to actually, they would be interested in managing it.
And I would just add real quick, they're probably going to be deeded affordable units.
They will
be. And so as such, I would think that the town, Andy, to answer your question, probably would be via, as you said, Dave Lane, the Quincy Housing Authority that is actually running the Hingham Housing Authority for them, would be probably the managing agent.
Yeah, and as a condo association, they don't necessarily have a management agency. I mean, what all the authority the trust will do is they will finish the renovations on the property, and they will then do the legal work to convert it to condominiums that are on our affordable housing inventory, and then they will sell them. And then they're out of it. Except in such times a unit owner would go to sell it, then there is a process they have to go through the town to sell it as an affordable unit.
Yeah, I'm just saying with it being deeded, there will still be ties with, as far as if those owners have, either issues or whatever, there'll still be some connection there and it will be noted in the deed. But anyway, not to get too down the rabbit hole on that.
All right. Other liaison reports? I think we're on to housekeeping then. We got our town meeting on May 8th. We've already talked about the AdCom meeting on May 8th, likely to be canceled. And our advisory committee gathering post-town meeting. If it still makes sense to people, Kathy and I would love to have you to our house for a beverage and hors d'oeuvres. And I have floated to the town administration that they're welcome to join us if they want, which would conceivably add selectmen, Tom, Michelle, Sue, and 3 lawyers. I don't know if that makes a difference in anyone's thinking. And I haven't heard back.
Lawyers to be named later.
John, Kerry, and Susan. But I haven't heard back from them as yet as to whether they want their own separate gathering or not. So we'll see. I don't know that there's anything else to do by way of housekeeping. I haven't thought about a meeting date post the town meeting. It would, I would think, be after the town election, and either the first Tuesday or the second Tuesday after the town election. And at that meeting, we would have our own election of officers. Looking down the road, we'd need a meeting probably towards the end of FY21 to go through the whole reserve transfer process. But those are the the last major orders of business for us this year. On matters not anticipated within 48 hours of the meeting, we had a forecast group meeting yesterday, and the Q3 financials that I sent out to everybody were what was reviewed at the forecast group meeting. It was a relatively short meeting, as these meetings go. And the town financial management plan is not triggering new levels of scrutiny. As I mentioned earlier, the amount of the surplus appears to be going down. Part of that is due to the insurance, part of it's due to, a lot of it's due to revenues not being generated to the extent that we had hoped they would be. I think all the detail is in the handout. If you have any questions for Sue, she could address them. I don't see any. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move.
Wait, does Sue have a question?
Bob, I just wanted to say something.
Okay.
At the selectmen's meeting earlier, that's why I was late. I just wanted to let everybody know some very, very good news. And this is attributed to our AAA. We sold, renewed our bond anticipation notes. Those are our short-term borrowings, and we renewed it at $22 million. And just to let you know, the net interest cost was 0.159%. It is the lowest rate since Jean and I have been doing it. So I just want to let everybody know the great job that we all do in keeping our AAA has paid through. $22 million, and our total interest next year will be $35,000 on $22 million. So just wanted to give you that great news.
And one of the implications of that is for a project like the public safety facility or the Foster School, that all of the construction costs are typically being paid with bands on a short-term basis. And, you know, we're building for close to free. So it's good. Great. Now, is there anything else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Tina,
Aye.
Brenda,
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Kristen?
Aye.
Al?
Hi.
Nancy?
Aye.
Andy?
Aye.
Victor?
Aye.
Evan?
Aye.
Julie?
Aye.
Erin?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Daveline?
Aye.
And Libby?
Aye.